Hello, so we're looking again at legislation and regulations. So just to recap here, obviously regulations are rules that are enforced by an authority and they're usually backed up by legislation, i.e. laws, which obviously means that if the rules are broken, then laws will be enforced and therefore action will be taken against those who have broken the rules. So legislation focuses on the laws, as I just mentioned, and are made by a government, whereas obviously regulation is a rule or directive made and maintained by an authority. So some examples of regulation, we've got Ofgem. They're the regulatory body who monitor the gas and electric market, whereas Ofwat are responsible for monitoring the water and sewage industry. An example of legislation would be obviously the smoking ban, and obviously there's punishment that is imposed due to if the smoking ban is breached. Obviously this particular type of government intervention focuses on correcting the market failures associated with demerit goods, negative externalities in production, monopolies, and information failure. So what we're going to have a look at today is we're going to have a look at legislation and regulation, focusing particularly on bans with particular products. So what we have here is we have obviously banning. We've seen some examples of bans. So we've seen bans on CFCs. So CFCs used to be used in the production of fridges and freezers, but these gases that were being used, which is known as CFCs, caused a hole in the ozone layer above Antarctica, and since the mid to late 1990s, CFCs have no longer been used in these products in order to prevent the ozone hole in the ozone layer getting any bigger. And actually what we're seeing now is the hole is shrinking in size. And also we've seen bans on smoking in public places. So if we were to impose a ban and ban on producing a particular product, this would mean that there is no output. If there's a ban on the product, no one is going to produce the product. And therefore you would have no negative externalities in production, and you would maximize all welfare because there is no product being produced. But the key thing here is to remember is a ban is only justified if the marginal social cost is greater than the marginal private benefit at all levels of output. So if we have a look at our diagram here, which justifies why a ban should be introduced, is we quite clearly see that the marginal social cost curve starts off higher than the marginal private benefit curve and remains that way throughout. A ban wouldn't be justified if the marginal private benefit was greater than the marginal social cost at a particular point. So if the marginal private benefit was greater than the marginal social cost, a ban wouldn't be justified, because actually the production of a particular product and maybe therefore the consumption of it would lead to particular benefits to some individuals. So a ban is only justified if the marginal social costs. So basically what we're saying is the private and external costs are always greater than any benefits. So the cost of producing or consuming a particular product is always going to be far outweigh the private and external cost of producing a particular product are going to outweigh any benefits of consuming it. So obviously it solves the market failure with regards to no negative externalities in production, and that maximizes welfare. But obviously it also solves the market failure of negative externalities in consumption, because there would be no negative externalities in consumption, because if the product isn't being produced, no one can consume the product as well. So no negative externalities in consumption. And obviously the reason for no negative externalities in consumption is no product produced. So if there's no product produced, you can't consume the product, and therefore again maximize welfare. So that's how a ban would work. The product isn't produced because it's been banned, and therefore welfare is maximised. But we must remember that a ban is only justified if the marginal social cost, as we see in our diagram, is greater than the marginal private benefit at all levels of output.